Welcome to the I Work For Him podcast. I'm Michael Miracle, producer of the I Work For Him radio program, the voice of the faith and work movement. Our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What does that look like in your workplace? Let's find out right now.
Hey, you've tuned into I Work For Him, the mouthpiece for the faith and work movement. We're your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg.
Thank you for joining us. We're excited to be talking about today, I Work For Him, the book, and being able to share one of our authors with you.
And you know, it's really important to recognize that we've got 3 books coming out this year. I Work For Him, She Works For Him, and I Retire For Him, all accessible and available to be purchased at iworkforhim.com/bookstore. These are not books we're trying to sell so we can make $1 billion, although that would be really nice. These are books to equip you and your neighbors and friends and coworkers to be encouraged on how to connect your faith in your work. Well, chapter 28 within I Work For Him was written by Workmatters. Workmatters.org. You've heard us talk about Work Matters and the Work Matters conference many times on I Work For Him. We're super excited about it. We've got the president and CEO, the executive director, the man, the big kahuna for Work Matters with us here on I Work For Him today, David Roth. David Roth, welcome back to I Work For Him.
Hey, Jim and Martha, it's always a good day when we get to talk. So thanks for having me.
So Jim might have given you a few titles you didn't know you had, but we're just really thrilled to be able to highlight what God is doing at Work Matters through the work that you've been doing, David. So as we get started, why don't you just get us up to date a little bit on, before Work Matters, like where did you come to understand that your work mattered?
I thank you for asking that question because I love to tell that story because I think it's in my work. I see other David Roths out there every day, and it's my hope that my story can change some of the journeys of some people. But when I graduated from the University of Arkansas, went to work immediately in a big company, and just every 3 or 4 years, God opened new doors for me to work at new companies. I moved to San Francisco and worked for McKesson Corporation. Lived there for 3 years. I moved to Atlanta, worked for a software company. Ended up being vice president of marketing for this software company. Then to Washington, D.C., where I had the blessing to serve on the executive team of a publicly traded software company. So the first 20 years of my career, which I just walked you through in 30 seconds, is really what I call my Sunday Christian years. I grew up in a Christian home. I knew Jesus, but my faith was completely a Sunday thing or a when do I need God thing. And I feel like I was doing the right things in my work during those 20 years in terms of integrity and, just the way I was doing my work. But I had no clue about the idea of integrating my faith in my work. And so it was a classic example of just segregating your faith and your work, and work is work and faith is faith. And sadly, as you guys know so well, there's still millions of people who are in that mindset. Still today, even with all of the work that's been happening with your organization and Work Matters and many other faith and work organizations. In 1999, we decided we had our first son. Our second son was on the way, and we decided that we wanted to move back to my wife Teresa's home or to my home in Arkansas. And thankfully, she was great with moving to Arkansas. And so we moved back to Arkansas, and I went to work for J.B. Hunt Transport, which is the largest over-the-road transportation provider in the United States. And it was at J.B. Hunt that for the first time, I started thinking about what faith and work could really look like. My wife and I also got really involved in our church. We were leading small groups. We were teaching classes. Our faith journey, our faith was really blossoming. And so those two things were colliding. Our Sunday faith was really growing. And then all of a sudden I started working around people who were believers. And so I started a very stealth kind of observation of Christians. And it's one of the reasons why we're so strong at Work Matters about teaching people that faith and work all starts with your own behavior. Because you have such a testimony and you're literally sharing the gospel in the way that you do your work. And so I watched these leaders, and I especially like to watch them when we were on the road, when we were entertaining clients, when we were in a restaurant, maybe a bar, maybe a client wants to go do something afterwards that you don't really want to do, all those things. And I was just so amazed at how they remained who they were, regardless of the circumstance. If they had to fire someone, if they were celebrating someone, if they had a really difficult decision, whatever it was, and they weren't perfect, obviously, but I saw what faith and work really looked like, and I saw that you could still be competitive in your work, that you could still do your work with excellence, you could still desire to grow in your career, and all kinds of things that were, in my book, if they're handled the right way, are absolutely right. And so that 3 or 4 years at JB Hunt just really, I often say I got an MBA on faith at work by just observing other people. And then, as you guys know, our Work Matters story, but one Saturday morning, our church that I went to had a leader cast, or a leadership conference. It was simulcast. And I went to them because I love to grow. And at the end of this conference, unbeknownst to me, my own church launched this new ministry called Work Matters. And it was just one of those moments where everything in my life came together. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I literally volunteered that day to join the original board of directors of Work Matters. In its first founding, we talk about it as having two founders. The first founder was a pastor in that church. It operated inside of the church for about 18 months and took off in ways we never experienced or never expected. And so we began to talk about, hey, could this have greater impact outside of the four walls of this church? And so much credit goes to this church because it was a great outreach, opportunity. But we spun it out of the church and made it a standalone, non-denominational, nonprofit organization.
So let's give a shout out to the church because they deserve credit, because I love that when churches actually get what we talk about every day. What was the name of the church?
Central United Methodist Church. It's actually the largest Methodist church in Arkansas. And the pastor's name, who was the original founder, is Tom Fraze. He's now retired, but he owned an advertising agency for 20 years before he became a pastor. And so he understood, the difficulties of living your faith at work.
We're talking today with David Roth from Work Matters. You can check him out online, workmatters.org, workmatters.org. Let's face it, there's only so much you can accomplish in a day, right?
As a busy leader, countless distractions are vying for your time. And making it harder is that these distractions are often important things, but maybe not the best use of your time or passions.
You need help living out your God-given purpose, and thankfully, our friends at Belay offer just that.
Belay, an innovative staffing solution with over 10 years of experience, has successfully matched thousands of organizations with part-time virtual assistants, bookkeepers, and social media strategists.
With Belay's help, you can delegate to someone who has the skills to execute faster and more efficiently, leaving you to do what only you can do. Fulfill your purpose and be the faithful steward you are called to be.
To learn more, just text 4HIM to 55123. Again, that's the number 4HIM to 55123.
David, we're going to fast forward. For many years, you guys have been sending out daily or multi-devotionals per week, stories. You've got a lot of written resources, and you've been holding annual Work Matters conferences, one-day events that have brought in lots of leaders who understand connecting faith and work. It's been live in Rogers, Arkansas, and simulcast across the country. Where is Work Matters heading in the second half of 2021?
Yeah, great question. So, the pandemic did a lot for a lot of people. We were actually working on pivoting our organization before the pandemic. But long story short, Work Matters offers content in a variety of different ways, as you guys know. One of them is our Work Matters Institute for young professionals. We've been doing it for 10 years. but it's the one thing of all the things that we do that we haven't scaled nationally. Everything else we do is digital and is available for people to participate in regardless of where they live. The Institute is face-to-face and has been here in Northwest Arkansas. We have, for the last 2+ years, been testing some different models of how to scale the Institute nationally. And so I'm excited really to announce to you guys that in this fall, we will begin offering the Workmatters Institute in 3 different cities in Northwest Arkansas, where we already exist, in Little Rock, Arkansas, and also in Atlanta. And so the idea behind the Institute is to take a cohort of anywhere from 20 to 40 young leaders, and we call young leaders 25 to 39, pretty broad range, that go through this course. It's a 12-week class. They meet once a week, whether it's in person or digital. And there's 3 elements to the Institute. The first element is the Theology of Work. We spend a month really teaching them, what does the Bible say about work? Let's really go into Genesis.
And you
really
cover that in a
process.
month? Yeah, like that could take a whole year, but okay, a month.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful, because so many young leaders who come through the Institute already are pretty strong believers, but most of them have their worlds rocked when they really hear what the Bible has to say about work. The second piece is where we get into the practical application of the theology, where we use 7 executive speakers. So we recruit executive leaders that come in and speak on one of our 7 pillars. And it makes it very practical on, okay, how do I actually live my faith at work? And then the last piece is the faith and leadership action plan. So each participant creates a plan that says they identify one area of brokenness in their work. Could be them, could be their culture, could be a boss, any number of things. Number 2 is, what does that look like renewed? What's the renewal vision? Number 3 is, what's your action plan to go make that renewal happen? And then the fourth part of that is just their own personal growth strategy. So it's beautiful. At the end of the 12 weeks, Jim and Martha, they get 5 minutes to present to their peers a PowerPoint presentation that lays out their faith and leadership action plan. And so that's their commissioning. As we release them after 12 weeks, they go off into the workplace, equipped to live their faith every day, but also to attack this one area that needs to be renewed.
Wow. Last time we were on location, we got a chance to interview several Workmatters Institute graduates. And I can tell you firsthand, the stories that they shared and the impact it made on their work was dynamic. And so we're very excited to be hearing this from you and hearing how it is going to be spreading. And just pray for those cities to really grasp it and to grow, because, we believe that this is not to, God told us not to reinvent the wheel. And when something has been created, like what he helped you create in the Institute, it can perpetuate all over the country. So thank you for taking that step of faith, and we're excited to see it launch.
We are excited. We want to be there at graduation time and talk to some of these graduates. And I know that in those 3 cities, but still available digitally. Are you going to make it available digitally in those cities as well, so they don't have to be from Little Rock, Atlanta, or Northwest Arkansas?
It'll be a mix of both.
Okay.
There'll be certain cohorts will be all face-to-face. Some will be a mix of face-to-face and digital. And then we are going to continue. One of the beautiful things we learned through COVID is that this 12-week course resonates and creates the same outcomes online as it does face-to-face.
Right.
So, in fact, the class that we just graduated had 31 people in it. And there was about 10 people from Northwest Arkansas, 10 from Little Rock. And then we had other people from Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas.
Excellent.
So we're going to continue to be constantly running an institute that's fully digital, so anyone, anywhere across the U.S. can participate.
So what's the website for the Workmatters Institute?
Go to workmatters.org/institute, or just go to workmatters.org and you'll find it right there.
Phenomenal. Super exciting. This gets to be launched out, and the I Work for Him. We got the scoop right here, and I Work for Him.
You did. Absolutely.
I know how you can stop wasting 70% of your work week.
You heard her right. Ask yourself, you finish your work week feeling like you should have gotten a lot more done? Ever feel like you need to accomplish more to grow your organization but have nothing left to give?
We've all been there. But to reclaim 70% of your work week, you need to learn to focus on purpose-driven productivity rather than profits in order to be successful.
So we're sharing a free productivity guide from Belay, the modern staffing solution with part-time virtual assistants, bookkeepers, and social media strategists.
It's a compilation of their most tried and true resources for fulfilling your God-given purpose every week.
Just text for him to 55123 to get your free resource and reclaim your purpose today. Again, that's the number 4HIM to 55123. All right, so David, let's just get transparent. I want one question. I was super excited about what's going on at Work Matters. I want to ask you this question as we close out the show today. If you were having a conversation with your younger you, that's the great Mercy Me song, dear younger me. All right, what's one thing you'd like to tell your younger you?
Easy answer. And I really already covered it to a degree in sharing my story, but the younger me or younger people that I get to talk to is don't wait until you crash and burn to figure out the beauty of integrating your faith in your work, to really understand what God's purpose for your work truly is, so that you have a completely different vision of work. And I'm telling you that, like when these young leaders come through the Institute, and you see in every one of them the light goes on, this new vision for work. So it's not just about the spreadsheet. It's not just about, the next promotion or money or whatever. And all those things can be great. But it's more, it just gives work such a greater purpose and a greater meaning. And so that absolutely is, find a mentor, find a person in your sphere of influence. Maybe it's in your company, maybe it's not, that you see as a believer and they're trying to live that out in the workplace, and let them help to teach you what that looks like, or use I Work for Him, or use Work Matters, or any number of other resources that are out there that can assist you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that with us and talking to your younger you and those younger people. We all have stuff that we can gain from that.
Make sure you get a chance to read chapter 28 inside I Work for Him. Get a copy at iworkforhim.com/bookstore. David Roth, thank you so much for being back on I Work for Him. Tell us about Work Matters Institute. Check it out online, workmatters.org/institute. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, Jim and Martha. It's always a blessing to see you guys.
You've been listening to I Work for Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field. But ultimately, I work for Him.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thank you for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work for Him and online, iworkforhim.com. I work the number 4him.com.